in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. A warm welcome to you. My name is Kamche Menza. On your screens currently, that is the chambers of the National Assembly. Members have already made their way into the chamber, ready for the business to be transacted this afternoon. And in the order of business, the members will be considering various bills at the committee of the whole house stage. These are bills that have already gone through the first stages. A debate already took place on these particular bills. And of course, at the committee of the whole house is where various amendments that may have been proposed by members during the debate are considered. The bills include the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, a bill originating from the National Assembly, sponsored by the Chairperson, Liaison Committee, who's also the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Boss. The County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, also from the National Assembly and sponsored by the Leader of the Majority Party, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Also the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill number 2 by the Leader of the Majority Party, and the Insurance Professionals Bill, also originating from the National Assembly and sponsored by the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, Honorable Kimani Kuria. So as members convene, these bills will be considered at the committee of the whole house. The Supplementary Appropriation Bill, which went through first reading this morning, is an act of Parliament that seeks to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the Consolidated Fund and the application towards the service of the year ending 30th of June 2025. Remember, the financial year is almost coming to a close, and this is a supplementary appropriation bill to enable the ministries and departments and executive finalize on their projects. However, the Speaker, as you can see, is already in the chamber. Allow me to hand it over to this.
Waheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao wameridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tunakuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na tujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako siendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. please. Honorable members, we have quorum to start our business, and I want to direct the House as follows. Apart from the laying of papers, we'll have no preliminaries so that we go to the main business of the day. All members with the statements, and there are many, I have directed for all of them to be selected for tomorrow morning. So if you have any statement request or for the chair's response, we'll start with that tomorrow at 10 in the morning. So for this afternoon, the only statement we'll have is the usual Thursday Majority Leader's statement from the House Business Committee. So, Clerk, can we start?
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Go on.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, March 13th, 2025, afternoon sitting. A, the following legal notices and the explanatory memoranda from the Ministry of Water and Irrigation. 2, legal notice number 57, legal notice number 54, number 1, legal notice number 54 of 2025 relating to the Water Services Regulation 2025. 2, legal notice number 57 of 2025 relating to the Water Harvesting and Storage Regulations 2025. And 3, legal notice of number 58 of 2025 relating to the Water Resources Regulations 2025. B, reports of the Auditor General and financial statement of the National Government Constituencies Development NG CDF for the year ended 30th June 2024, and the certificates therein in respect of the following constituencies. Number 1, Einamoi. 2, Bahati. 3, Bamashoge Borabu. 4, Buri. 5, Changamwe. 6, Dagoretti North. 7, Embakasi South. 8, Embakasi West. 9, Egwen. 10, Omuhaya. 11, Homa Bay Town. 12, Igembe South. 13, Igembe North. 14, Isiolo North. 15, Kamukunji. 16, Kangema. 17, Kapsaret. 18, Kadiani. 19, Kaio North. 20, Kiamba. 21, Kibra. 22, Kieni. 23, Kigumo. 24, Kiharu. 25, Kilome. 26, Kipipiri. 27, Kipkelion East. 28, Kirinyaga Central. 29, Kitui East. 30, Kitui Rural. 31, Kitutu Masaba. 32, Kuresoi North. 33, Lesamis. 34, Langata. 35, Lukuyani. 36, Lunga Lunga. 37, Mara. 38 Maragua, 39 Madare, 40 Matuga, 41 Mbere North, 42 Moiben, 43 Mount Elgon, 44 Murkueni, 45 Mwea, 46 Narok West, 47 India, 48 Njoro, 49 North Hor, 50 Oljoro Erok, 51 Olka Lau, 52 Odhaya, 53 Ruaraka, 54 Runyenjes, 55 Saku, 56 Samburu North, 57 Seme, 58 Soy, 59 Starehe, 60 Taveta, 61 Tetu, 62 Taraka, 63 Chiati, 64 Tongeren, 65 Voi, and 66 Wajir East. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I lay.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Finance, Majority Leader. Majority Leader. Where is the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning?
He must be finalizing on the amendments on the insurance, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, we'll skip that. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Same chair is not here.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
I say the only statement that I'll allow is the majority leader's usual statement, but majority leader before that, take your seat. Honorable members, allow me to recognize a delegation from the National Assembly of Zambia. I wish to introduce to you a delegation from the National Assembly of Zambia, comprising of members of the Steering Committee on the Establishment of the Parliamentary Institute of Zambia, who are seated in the Speaker's row. They are, and when I mention you, honorable members, you stand up for acknowledgement. Honorable Malungo Chisangano MP, First Deputy Speaker and Chairperson and Leader of Delegation. Honorable Stephen Kambiongo MP, Member. Honorable Machila Jamba MP, Member. Honorable Remember Mutale MP, Member. Honorable Anthony Kasandwe MP, Member. Honorable Harry Kamboni MP, Member. And Cecilia Sikatele, Deputy Clerk, Corporate Affairs. Honorable members, the delegation, accompanied by 5 other officers from the National Assembly of Zambia, is visiting our parliament for a week-long benchmarking visit at the Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training, CPST. On my behalf and that of the National Assembly of Kenya, I welcome them to the House of Parliament and wish them fruitful engagement during their stay in the country. I know Honorable Soro has asked me for a minute to acknowledge them, but let me finish acknowledging these schools. In the public gallery, we have Mirangine Secondary School from Olkalau, Nyandarua. Can you acknowledge your visitors, honorable members? Rarakwa Girls School from Kiguma, Muranga. Olare Secondary from Ainabkoi, Wasingishu. Ngorika Secondary School from Olkalau, Nyandarua. In the speakers gallery, we have law students from Kenyatta University, Westlands, Nairobi. St. Anne's Muthale Girls from Kitui West, Kitui. And Alliance High School from Kikuyu, Kiambu. Now, Majority Leader, you are biased. You're cheering Alliance much louder than the rest of the visiting schools. I have been requested by two members, Honorable Gisairo, to welcome the Kenyatta University students and Honorable Osoro to acknowledge our visitors from Zambia. You do so, Gisairo, on behalf of yourself and the House for all the schools visiting today.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You have a minute to do that.
Honorable Speaker, the students of Kenyatta University cornered me as I was walking out of a church service and demanded some questions about the work of Parliament. I took some time to explain to them, and I also welcomed them to come to this house so that they are able to understand, I have a real feel of what legislators do. So we welcome into this house, and over and above that, Honorable Speaker, also being an old boy of Alliance High School, I will take an opportunity also to welcome Alliance High School to this house, together with all the other schools that have come to be able to understand how the house functions and how we do our work. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, I happen to have worked and lived in Zambia, in Dola, working at Indeni Refinery. So therefore, I will take again this opportunity to also welcome the delegation from Zambia as a place I've worked and lived in, into this house. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Osoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I indeed asked for a minute to appreciate the delegation from Zambia for the hospitality they accorded us when we visited them as the House Business Committee. Yes. Actually, with you, Honorable Speaker. Yes. I think sometimes, if not last year, it should be the last year but one. Now, I'm reminded by the Majority Leader that it's last year when we visited Zambia. And of course, it was a learning experience in Zambia, and we hope that even as they traverse around the country, in this country, in Kenya, we hope they will be sharing experiences on the legislative duties and procedures on how we work, in terms of our legislative duties, Honorable Speaker. And we hope to reciprocate the visit again in the near future, because I was making fun of them, of course, when we were having lunch, that we may not meet the hospitality they accorded us when we visited them in terms of the food they gave us, Honorable Speaker. And I told them that please extend the invitation again very, very fast so that we can come and enjoy the meal that we enjoyed and the experiences that we shared in terms of the legislative duties that we all hold. So on behalf of the House Business Committee and this House, we wish to appreciate the honorable members led by the Deputy Speaker of Zambia. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Whip. Nyamai. Rachel, 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would like to welcome all students that have come to visit Parliament today, but I would like to specifically welcome students from Modale Girls. Honorable Speaker, I went to Modale Girls many years ago, and I still have the memories of the encouragement that we were given by our teachers and our principal, Mrs. Mbuko. This is a school that made me who I am, and I would like to encourage these girls, together with other girls from other schools, that you can be what you want to be, as long as you focus on your studies and listen to your teachers. This is the August House where laws are made, and this is a place where you can be in the future and be able to shape the leadership of this country. Welcome to the August House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Reluctantly, Munyoro, 1 minute. Give Munyoro a minute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to welcome all students into Parliament, and especially Rarakwa girls from my constituency. It's one of very few schools. We only have 3 girls' schools in Kigumo. And I want to encourage them and let them know that currently we are seated here and they have an opportunity to learn and be able to sit where we sit. And I wish them well, because they've been doing very well in exams, and safe journey home. Thank you.
Thank you. Kemei, Justice.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to welcome the honorable members from Zambia. And Mr. Speaker, I've been to Zambia over 5 times, and I can tell you it's a great country. I was also in school at the University of Wales with 3 students from Zambia, and they were very hardworking. Welcome to Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Jared.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, the country Zambia actually came up with CDF way ahead of us. And when our parliamentarians in the 10th Parliament was writing the laws around CDF, they borrowed heavily on what was already existing as Constituency Development Fund in Zambia. And today, I'm very happy that they have come to benchmark on our CPST. So that tells you how knowledge is being shared across the globe, Honorable Speaker. And I thank you for the opportunity, and we encourage them to continue doing the good work with their CDF.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Zambia Gitonga is also seated next to me. So it's called Zambia Gitonga. So he should join his colleagues soon after this.
His name has nothing to do with Zambia. And yes, Majority Leader.
For the statement or to welcome?
For your statement, and you can welcome your pet school, Alliance. Two of my sons went through that school as well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's called The School. So allow me, Honorable Speaker, before I read the usual Thursday statement, on behalf of the House and on my own behalf, to welcome the school that we host in Kikuyu, The School, The Alliance High School. And tell the young men seated in the speaker's gallery, I was in that school about 31 years ago. Is it 31? From 1994. I left that school in 1994. Left as a house captain, Smith House, and the senior prefect in charge of discipline. So they know what happens when you get indisciplined at the school. Honorable Speaker, also allow me to recognize the other schools, the one from Kitui and the delegation from Zambian Parliament. And it's true, as Honorable Sosoro says, we did visit the Zambian Parliament as members of the House Business Committee, and were indeed accorded
and
very
they
good
accorded
hospitality.
us a very good welcome.
Very, very good, extremely good, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
I happened to miss that opportunity to visit,
Yes.
but when the whip came back,
Yes.
he has always had stories about the Zambian Parliament and even how the parliamentarians live with constituency houses in the city of Lusaka. Therefore, we have a lot to learn also from them, even as they seek to learn from us on matters CPST. Honorable Speaker, moving on to the Thursday statement. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2a, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 11th March 2025, to prioritize business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, last week the House approved the medium-term debt management strategy. Earlier today, the House also approved the 2025 budget policy statement, which paves the way for the introduction of the Division of Revenue Bill of 2025 for first reading and subsequent stages. The House also passed the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-2025 this morning, and we proceed to conclude consideration of Committee on Supply this afternoon. This will be followed by consideration at all stages of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2025. And I urge members to stick around because this is the most critical stage of the budget making process. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to commend the Liaison Committee and all members for the dedication and cooperation demonstrated in consideration of the medium-term debt strategy and the budget policy statement and the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 24-25 and the attendant legislation. Indeed, we have certainly set a good pace and met the statutory timelines with regard to the said budget documents. With such an accomplishment, Honorable Speaker, we can now proceed to our upcoming short break, commencing after tomorrow's morning sitting without any baggage of pending priority business. Honorable Speaker, members will recall that on Tuesday, 11 March 2025, this House resolved to alter its calendar for the fourth session, regular sessions, by varying the commencement of the short recess from Friday, 14 March to Monday, 17 March 2025. In line with that resolution, the House will resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, 1st April 2025 at 2:30 p.m. to continue the first part of the session. Honorable Speaker, as we proceed on recess, the House still awaits reports on various business before committees. The recess period therefore gives committees, including those which have not been fully reconstituted, those that are still having elections pending, ample time to expedite consideration of business pending before them, including finalizing reports on bills, treaties, inquiries, and responses to statements, which will be brought to the House upon resumption from recess. Honorable Speaker, it's good to emphasize, especially now that all department committees have their chairs in place. There are very many committees that still have reports pending and which are holding the processing of certain bills to progress to second reading. And I really want to urge all of us, because this is a short working recess, we take that break to allow committees to be able to work on such reports, inquiries, and please take time to make sure that you finalize with, especially those that are holding bills, with all those reports. Honorable Speaker, upon resumption, the House will continue with the second reading of the Learners with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bill number 4 of 2023, and the Treaty Making and Ratification Amendment Bill number 2 of 2024, should they not be concluded tomorrow, Friday, 14 March 2025. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, debate will also be undertaken on the following motions, should they not be concluded on tomorrow morning. One is report of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure regarding public petition on legal recognition and protection of e-hailing motorcycle riders and delivery personnel. And 2, motion on the state of security in 6 counties of North Rift, being Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Turkana, West Pokot, Samburu, and Laikipia. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene again on Tuesday, 1st April 2025 to schedule business for the rest of that week. On behalf of the House Business Committee, I wish members a restful recess, working recess, as they spend time with their families, discharge their duties in their constituencies, and those who will be around in town, their duties in the committees, as I said, which have pending reports that we expect to have been finalized by the time we re-engage again on the 1st of April, God willing. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Next. Order Dawood.
Order number 8, motion. Report of the Committee of the Whole House on the National Land Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2023. Question to be put and third reading.
Members on their feet, take your seats. Take the nearest seat, Pauline. Member for Aldai, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the National Land Commission Amendment Bill. National Guys have it. Mover, Owen Bayer.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the National Land Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2023, be now read at third time. I also request the Honorable Osoro to second.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Ruiru, take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the National Land Commission Amendment Bill, Assembly Bill 3, be now read a third time. Those of the
An Act of Parliament to amend the National Land Commission Act and for connected purposes. An Act of Parliament to amend the National Land Commission Act and for connected purposes. Committee of Supply, second allotted day to resume from vote 1321.
Honorable members, will you be upstanding? And even the students in the gallery, will you stand? Statement. The first statement is on the alarming rise in gas-related explosions. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Order 53.1 to request a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the alarming rise in gas-related explosions across the country. I'm alive that Senator Buru is the chair, which have led to significant loss of life, injuries, and extraction of property. In recent months, Mr. Speaker, Kenya has witnessed multiple incidents of gas explosion, including the tragic Embakasi gas explosion in Nairobi, which resulted in several deaths and hundreds of injuries. Mr. Speaker, similar incidents have been reported in Mombasa, including the case of Ms. Georgina Oko, a student at Alliance High School, who succumbed to injuries from a boiler explosion while on holiday. Additionally, gas leaks in learning institutions have posed serious risk to students, as seen in the Makande Girls Secondary School incident where eight candidates fainted due to inhalation of leaked gas. These incidents raise serious concerns about compliance with safety regulations, the effectiveness of regulatory oversight by agencies responsible for gas handling and distribution, and the preparedness of emergency response mechanisms. In the statement, the committee should explain the status of investigations into recent gas explosion incidents, including the findings and measures taken against those found culpable, while also investigating the level of compliance with safety regulations and licensing requirements by gas handling and distribution businesses. 2, indicate the steps taken by relevant agencies, including EPRA and the National Environment Management Agency, NEMA, to prevent illegal gas refilling operations. 3, state any measures being implemented to enhance public awareness on gas safety and improve emergency response mechanisms, outlining the safety measures implemented specifically in Kisumu County to mitigate risks associated with gas-related operations. 4, ascertain the emergency response protocols, routine inspections, and other safety measures, and frequency of safety inspections and reviews, particularly for facilities managed by the KPC, or Kenya Pipeline Company, to ensure that the residents of Kisumu County are adequately protected from potential gas-related hazards. And lastly, explain measures that the government has put in place to review and strengthen existing laws and policies governing the storage, transportation, and distribution of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, to prevent future tragedies. Mr. Speaker, my second statement is on the promotion of alternative sports in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labour and Social Welfare regarding the promotion and development of alternative sports in Kisumu County and across the country. Mr. Speaker, while the mainstream sports like football and athletics receive significant attention and funding, there's a growing interest in alternative sports such as kung fu, roller skating, rugby sevens, and water sports. In Kisumu County, for instance, Mr. Speaker, many young people actively participate in these sports, but face challenges due to limited infrastructure and inadequate funding. Despite their potential to create jobs, empower youths, prevent crime, and position Kisumu as a sports tourism hub, especially in water-based sports in Lake Victoria, there's little structured investment in this discipline. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, the committee should outline the Ministry of Sports plans to promote and develop alternative sports, particularly in Kisumu County, detailing steps taken to provide the necessary infrastructure, including the construction and upgrading of sports facilities, access to training equipment, and establishment of talent development centers to support growth of this business. Secondly, state whether the government has policies or dedicated funding programs to support alternative sports, and if not, indicate whether there are plans to introduce such initiatives to enhance development and accessibility of alternative sports at both grassroots and national levels. 3, explain the measures in place to facilitate public-private partnerships and sponsorship programs aimed at promoting alternative sports as a means of youth empowerment and economic growth. 4, indicate whether the Ministry of Education has considered incorporating alternative sports into school sports programs to nurture talent from an early age. And lastly, assess Kisumu County's potential as a regional hub for water sports and state whether the government has any initiatives to tap into this opportunity for sports tourism and economic development, specifying any ongoing or planned investment in water sports and training programs. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I have a statement on the plans to extend the standard gauge railway. This goes straight to Mr. Eddie's committee. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53 to seek a statement of Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the plans to extend the standard gauge railway to Kisumu County. In the statement, the committee should provide an update on the extension of SGR to Kisumu County, including the current status of feasibility studies and project timelines, highlighting any challenges or obstacles affecting the implementation of the project and outline the measures taken to address them. 2, clarify whether the government has secured funding for the project, and if so, provide details on the specific sources of funding, including international lenders, bilateral agreements, or public-private partnerships, outlining terms of engagement, repayment plans, and any conditions attached to funding. 3, outline the economic and logistical benefits that the extension is expected to bring to Kisumu County, including impacts on trade, industrialization, and job creations, stating whether there are plans to integrate SGR with Kisumu Port and other transport networks. Lastly, state the number of people expected to be displaced along the SGR route to avoid a repetition of previous projects, particularly in Kisumu County, providing details on the resettlement and compensation plans developed by Kenya Railways Corporation, and explain the mechanisms in place to ensure fair, timely, and transparent compensation for those affected, highlighting steps taken to engage and consult the affected communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mohammed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have a statement in regards to the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KENGEN. This is power project in Loyangalani in Marsabit County. So, Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the Kenya Electricity Generating Company wind power project in Loyangalani, Marsabit County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide details of the existing policies, agreements, and feasibility studies conducted concerning the wind power project, and explain the project's expected environmental and socio-economic impact, as well as its implementation timeline. Number 2, provide information on the land use, specifying the total land area required for the project, the site selection criteria, and the projected electricity output. Number 3, explain whether power generated from the project will be fed into a national grid or allocated for local consumption. Number 4, outline the direct benefits of this project to the Loyangalani community, including proposed compensation for land use, employment opportunities, and infrastructure development, and disclose whether adequate public participation was conducted before implementation of the project. Number 5, state whether KENGEN will establish an operational site in Loyangalani and provide the current status of employment opportunities for local workers and contractors. Finally, Honorable Speaker, number 6, specify the total investment in the project, including funding sources, government incentives, and the development of necessary infrastructure such as roadworks. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
A statement pursuant to Standing Order 57.1, the Senate Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is a statement by the Senate Majority Leader on the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 18th March 2025, pursuant to Standing Order number 57.1. that pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1, I hereby present the business for the week commencing Tuesday, 18th March 2025. Before I make the presentation, Mr. Speaker, allow me to give the status legislative business pending before the Senate. Therefore, 1, 55 bills, 43 are at the second reading, and 12 are the Committee of the Whole. 31 motions, which are pending conclusion, 36 petitions are pending conclusion, out of which 17 are due for reporting by the respective standing committees, and 540 statements pursuant to Standing Order number 53-1 are pending conclusion. 3, on the matter of petitions, honorable senators will recall that the standing orders were amended to have the reports on petitions debated and adopted. So far, the Senate has considered and adopted 8 petitions. Standing Order number 225 of the Senate provides for follow-up on implementation of the Senate resolutions. I therefore urge the relevant standing committees to follow up on the same and ensure that the recommendations on the petitions are acted upon. I also take this opportunity to urge the standing committees that are yet to table reports on petitions to adhere to the timelines provided for in the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, sir, as honorable senators will note from today's order paper, orders number 8 and 9 relate to the financial matters which have timelines. Additionally, number 10 and number 15 relate to business awaiting division. I therefore urge honorable senators to remain in the chamber for the consideration of the reports of standing committees on finance and budget, on the budget policy statement, and the medium-term debt management strategy, and the divisions schedules to be undertaken today. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 18th March 2025, the Senate Business Committee will meet to consider the business for the week. The tentative business for that day will include business not concluded from today's order paper, as well as the business indicated in the notice paper. The tentative business for the morning sitting of Wednesday, 19th March 2025, will include the scheduled questions to Cabinet Secretaries as approved by the Senate Business Committee, as well as motions. The scheduled questions include the following. Question number 08 to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation on the status of compensation of landowners who granted way leave for the Lower Guja Irrigation Development Project by Senator Eddie Okech, MP. Question 09 to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation on the status of construction of Thwakef Dam in Makueni County by Senator Daniel Maonzo, MP. And question number 02 to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora on the repatriation of Kenyan refugees currently residing in Ethiopia by Senator Mohamed Said Chute, MP. Question number 024 to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Defense on the involvement of the Kenya Defense Forces in internal security matters by Senator Professor Tom Ojienda, Senior Counsel, MP. Question number 07 to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Cooperatives, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development on the non-payment of terminal dues to the employees of the former Kenya Cooperative Creameries, KCC, whose services were terminated, you will remember, in 1999. This question is by Senator Eddie Okech, MP. And finally, question number 042 to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Cooperatives, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development on the revival of Kimuri coffee factory in Kigumo constituency by the Senator Veronica Maina, nominated MP. Mr. Speaker, the tentative business for the afternoon sitting on 19th of March 2025 will include business not concluded from the order paper for 18th March 2025 and the following businesses. On bill, the county government's state officers removal from office procedure bill, the creative economy support bill, the livestock protection and sustainability bill, the county government's amendment bill, Senate Bill number 39 of 2024, include the following: 1, the early childhood education bill, the energy bill, the county public finance laws bill, the county government's election laws bill, the local content bill, the land amendment bill, the cooperative societies amendment bill, the national disaster risk management bill, and, Mr. Speaker, finally, business on motion. Namely, the motion on the establishment of the national teaching and referral hospitals in Kenya and consolidation of bursary fund equitable access to education in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, the projected business for Thursday, 20th March 2025 will include business not concluded in the order paper for Wednesday, 19th March, and any other business scheduled by the Senate Business Committee. I thank you, and I hereby lay this statement on the table of the Senate now this afternoon.
Now, honorable senators, I will allow comments on the statements that have just been requested from the different committees for a maximum period of 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted just to, make a few comments on the statement by Senator Tom Ojienda on the extension of SGR. I know it's coming to me and to our committee, the Committee on Transport, Roads and Housing. But, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important project that must be considered, hopefully, with the committee and with the idea of trying to make sure that we can be able to invest our intellect in ensuring that the idea of SGR extension to Kisumu comes about, and not only just to Kisumu, to go all the way to the border of Kenya at Malaba. Because, Mr. Speaker, SGR is a very serious economic stimulus country. If you look at the country currently, Mariakani border is a very important part of the services of goods running around the country and across the country and across the continent. So is Migori County, where I come from, and so is Malaba border. And, Mr. Speaker, the conceptualization of SGR was mistaken because initially SGR was thought to be an efficient means of transport for goods more predominantly, but now it is becoming a critical integration for moving labor in our country. And, Mr. Speaker, I hope that with projects like SGR, we can envision how we can be able to move the labor so easily across the country. Even moving labor today in Nairobi alone has become a problem. And I wanted to wish us the courage, Mr. Speaker, that even as the committee will be looking at this, we start dreaming and having ambition of even one day having a metro service within Migori County, within Mombasa, within Malaba, and within Kisumu, and if possible, we start with Nairobi, so that we invest on proper movement of labor in this country and make it cheaper to commute and transact business. So this is something we look at very strongly, and I thank Senator Ojienda for bringing this up, and I hope that something that will be able to open up the country for all of us to be able to contribute in this economy. Therefore, I support it, and Senator Ojienda be assured that
ya kwamba kamati itakapokuwa ikishughulikia hili jambo ishughulikie kwa dharura, ndio wananchi wa Kenya ama wazee wetu ambao ni wakongwe waweze kulipiwa hazina ya afya na serikali, ambao ni wakongwe waweze kulipiwa hazina ya afya na serikali, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu hata zile hela ambazo wakongwe wanapaswa kupatiwa inakuwa ni vigumu sana kwao kupata. Unapata wanakaa miezi mingi kupata, unapata wanakaa miezi mingi bila kupata zile hela, Bwana Spika, na ilhali wale wazee ndio kwao ni rahisi sana kupata magonjwa, kwa sababu kwa vile ambavyo unaenda kukua kwa miaka, Bwana Spika, unakuwa hawezi kukaa bila kupata magonjwa, Bwana Spika. Wengi kila wakati wana madawa, Bwana Spika, ambaye hata kuyanunua inakuwa ni kazi ngumu. Si hao tu, Bwana Spika, hata walemavu, Bwana Spika, walemavu wanapata shida nyingi, kwa sababu hata kupata ajira kwao ni vigumu sana, kwa sababu watu wengi, hata serikali kubwa, Bwana Spika, haiwaajiri walemavu, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri kamati kapokuwa ikishughulikia jambo hili iangalie kwa kindani wakongwe wetu pamoja na walemavu wameshughulikiwa, Bwana Spika. Nataka kuunga mkono taarifa iliyotolewa tena na Senator Professor Ojenda, Bwana Spika, kuhusu reli kupelekwa moja kwa moja mpaka Kisumu, hata katika Malava, mahali mpaka wa Kenya na Uganda iko. Kwa sababu, Bwana Spika, hiyo itaongeza mambo ya biashara. Watu wataweza kusafiri kwa urahisi, na nchi yetu ya Kenya, Bwana Spika, mahali ambapo itakapopitia sehemu hizo, utapata ya kwamba biashara zitaimarika, na wale ambao wengine ambao hata walifikiria kwamba sehemu zao ni kama zimewachwa, zitafunguliwa reli itakapopitia pale, na watu wengi wataweza kutufaika. Bwana Spika, nashukuru.
Senator Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, pia mimi kunipa fursa kuchangia taarifa kuhusiana na milipuko ya mitungi ya gesi katika miji tofauti tofauti. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimpongeze Senator Ojenda kwa kuleta taarifa hii ambayo imekuja katika wakati mwafaka. Mheshimiwa, kule Mombasa kila siku kuna moto isiyopungua 2-3, na mingi inasababishwa na milipuko ya gesi. Na mara nyingi Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa kuna ongezeko la matumizi ya gesi kwa matumizi ya kinyumbani, hakuja kuwa na mfumo wote wa kuwasaidia wale ambao wanatumia gesi hizi kupata elimu kuhusiana na matumizi hayo. Kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, ule mpira ambao una connect mtungi wa gesi kuja mpaka kwenye kichwa ambako kinawaka moto, inatakana itumike baada ya miaka 2, lazima ibadilishwe. Lakini utapata wengine kutoka aliponunua mtungi wa gesi, ile pipe bado ni ile, na ile mara nyingi huwa inalika kule ndani, na ikilika inasababisha gesi kuanza kuvuja, na ikivuja ile gesi ndio inaweza kusababisha mlipuko ama moto bila matatizo yote. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, jukumu hili la kupambana na moto pamoja na dharura nyingine ni jukumu ambalo liko katika kaunti zetu. Kwa hivyo lazima kaunti zetu zikishirikiana na IPRA, ikishirikiana pia na wahudumu wa zimamoto, waanzishe mikakati ya kuwaelimisha wananchi juu ya masuala ya matumizi ya gesi, kwa sababu mara nyingi wengi wanatumia gesi zile bila ya elimu yoyote, na hivyo basi inawafanya kuingia katika hatari ambayo inaweza kuepukika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa mfano katika nyumba moja Mombasa ya Kiswahili ina rumu karibu 10, na kila mtu ana meko. Kwa hivyo moja ikilipuka utapata milipuko 10 inalipuka kwa wakati mmoja, kwa sababu ule moto unasambaa kwa haraka, na vile vile inakuwa ni hatari kwa binadamu, na vile vile pia kwa rasilimali ama majumba ya watu hao. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Mehta.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to comment on that statement that has been sought by the Senator for Kisumu, Senator Professor Tom Ojenda, especially on the extension of the standard gauge railway all the way to Kisumu. What I want to agree with the colleagues who have actually said that it will ease movement of people and goods, and it will even make it is an economic viable project, Honorable Speaker. And since the chairman of the committee, the new chairman of the Committee on Transport is here, Honorable Senator Eddy, and whom I have not had an opportunity of congratulating. Congratulations, Senator Eddy. As you take up on this particular mandate, Honorable Eddy, I thought Senator Kinjo would actually mention I would wish that you expand your scope, even as you look at the extension of the standard gauge railway from Naivasha all the way to Kisumu. What perplexes the people of Kenya is the fact that governments do not live, they don't live in perpetuity in terms of projects that they have initiated. On this matter of the standard gauge railway, Senator Kenya will tell you that we have a very magnificent railway or terminus at a place called Chaka. We have another one at a place called Olkalau. The railway between Gilgil or Kalau to Nyahururu was rehabilitated. We only saw one train use that railway, and we don't know what became of it. Senator Kenya will also tell you, there was even a standard gauge railway that was done all the way to Nanyuki in Laikipia. But nothing has been done to this effect, or we don't know what became of that particular project. We have a very magnificent railway terminus at Olkalau. We only see it as a white elephant. It was done, it was commissioned, it was opened. Nothing to show for it. The money of the people of Kenya was spent on these particular projects. What became of these projects, Honorable Speaker? Because we cannot just abandon, just because they were started by Uhuru Kenyatta. Nothing is being done to it, Honorable Speaker. I know these are capital projects. These are not small projects. These are not the small projects of 1 million chapatis, for example. These are capital projects that, Honorable Speaker, a lot of government money has been pumped on these specific projects, Honorable Speaker. We would want to know, Senator Eddie, as you bring that particular report, we would want that report to be very exhaustive. On the day that we invite the Kenya Railway Service, ensure that these questions do not now come with other senators, Honorable Speaker. Get as many answers as you can so that we're able to serve the people of Kenya better. Asante.
Senator Onyonka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would actually like to pick up from where my brother, Senator Methu, has stopped, and that is, Senator Ojenda, thank you for raising that issue. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that when this SGR is going to be laid out, that Kisii will not be forgotten. There has been an announcement which was made by the government that the SGR would actually pass through a place called Nyamira and then go down towards Kisumu. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I really hope that the government realizes that SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi has a bad name. We spent excessively. Nobody knows the details of the agreement. I hope that the government will take it upon itself to even do comparative analysis and look at what Tazara Railway has been given from Dodoma to Moshi. It is important that we compare what our brothers in the East African region have been given, so that then we can look and see whether we are getting value for money. If this project is complete, as a senator of Kisii County, I would be extremely happy, because at least I'll be taking the railway line to Kisii when the Mai-Mahiu line, Honorable Halwale, when it's not working. The second issue I would like to seriously look at, Mr. Speaker, is the question as a statement that has been sought by Honorable Chute. Honorable Chute, with all accolades, this is an important question. Lake Turkana wind power has been generating power from Samburu for the last 7 years. The amount of money they make, nobody knows. The amount of capital investment which was done, nobody knows. There was a standard agreement between the amounts to be shared with the local community under the 30-70 rationale. That hasn't been made very clear. And the information that some of us, Mr. Speaker, are getting is that Lake Turkana wind power is now basically providing CSR services, do toilets, provide one borehole here and there, and yet the amount of land that Lake Turkana wind power took is more than 170,000 acres of land. The community and the people in this area have never been compensated since this project started. The owners of this company, it's assumed they are foreigners. I used to believe that the local community at least should have been given even one simple director, or even make sure that some of the children from these areas can be taken to university, so that one day they'll take over the running of the project. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, KenGen is now, they want to do a second phase of this project. I believe that this is a very good idea, but how I pray that this project...
Give the Honorable Senator 1 minute to conclude his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How I wish that these projects can be open, transparent, at least, Mr. Speaker, not to all Kenyans, not to all senators. We have the Transport Committee. So my suggestion would be let the government disclose and tell the committee of this House what it wants to do with KenGen, how much it's going to cost, whether it's a PPP. Nobody objects that PPPs don't work. But once they're transparent and accountable, Mr. Speaker, nobody would have an issue as to what project is going to be successful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I really give a lot of accolades to Honorable Chute for bringing this very important matter. Thank you.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, very quickly, congratulations, Professor Tom Ojienda. I thought your thinking is limited to law, but I can see you appreciate business. Mr. Speaker, because of the issue as raised on SGR, the Parliament of Kenya must put pressure on the executive to roll out SGR, understanding it as the new way to expand the economy of Kenya. Kenya's largest trading partner is Uganda. And therefore, if this SGR will go that direction, then we are speaking to the big picture. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want us to please Senator Onyonga in Nyamira and Kisii there, and then the people of Kisumu, fine. But let upon that development ending, it be remembered that SGR must run all the way to Malaba through Webuye and Bungoma. That is the route for doing business, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the executive cannot afford to be doing things half-hearted. The SGR that is currently there is useless. It's a slow thing. We must invest in electric trains. The modern way of transporting goods is guided by speed, and the speed that will make a difference is the electric train. Why we are not developing the electric train, God knows. We are doing technology which, Mr. Speaker, is decades old. We must remain as Kenya on the cutting edge. We do modern things quickly. Finally, Mr. Speaker, governors, you are not doing us a favor. I want to address our good governor of Nairobi. I can see you have totally lost focus. The purpose of the governor of Nairobi is not to feed people. The purpose of the county government of Nairobi is to open up the economy of Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, the governor of Nairobi should not be talking about chapatis. He should be talking about underpasses, overpasses, metros. That is the future. The people you will employ in those areas I've mentioned will feed their children. So when I see him talking about chapatis, I say, this thing of saying that the youth should ascend into leadership is a lie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But it is true. He's talking about chapatis.
Senator Sotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to make a comment on the statement by Senator of Kisumu, Senator Ujenda, on the extension of the standard gauge railway to Kisumu. Mr. Speaker, Senator Ujenda has raised very fundamental issues as far as this project is concerned. I am aware, Mr. Speaker, some public participation has already been conducted involving even my county as far as this standard gauge railway project is concerned. And I want to say that part of the plan is to extend this SGR all the way to Malaba. But I want to raise a concern, Mr. Speaker, because the plans that are there, the preliminary plans that are there, is that this railway standard gauge railway will not pass through Luanda, Maseno, Lela, Luanda route. And I was getting surprised why that should happen, Mr. Speaker, because if you use a different route, it means the project cost will be higher, because it means you have to compensate the landowners along the route. But we already have land, railway land, all the way from Kisumu to Luanda. So I wonder why the Kenya Railways has decided they're using alternative route, which effectively it means, Mr. Speaker, that the Kisumu-Luanda portion will then to us as leaders in that region. So we would like to know, not just the feasibility studies, but we want the committee to seek to find out what is the route plan for this project, so that deserving areas like Luanda, which already has facilities, railway facilities, can also benefit from this project. Mr. Speaker, that Luanda area has a lot of infrastructure, not just land, but recently the government also launched the industrial park, which I think makes sense, because if we have a standard gauge railway and we have industrial park, it means the products that will be produced in the industrial park will be transported easily by railway to different parts of the world. So I think this project needs to be relooked at, because already it is showing signs of
1 minute, Senator, to conclude your remarks.
Already it is showing signs of high cost, because clearly the planners of this, the plans they have in mind is to try and divert the railway line to areas where they can have land negotiated and bought, and leaving out areas which already have land, like the patch between Lela, Maseno, and Luanda. So, Mr. Speaker, I think I fully support this statement. And when this matter was brought to me, I opposed and said it is not fair to exclude the Vihiga area, particularly Luanda area, from this project, Mr. Speaker. I support this statement by Senator, my neighbor, Professor Tomo Ojenda, who has now officially rejoined the ODM party.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion, consideration of the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2025 Budget Policy Statement.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Budget, on Finance and Budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report on the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2025 Budget Policy Statement laid on the table of this Senate on Wednesday, the 12th of March 2025, and pursuant to Section 25(7) of Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order number 187(7) of the Senate, Senate approves the 2025 Budget Policy Statement. Mr. Speaker, Section 25(2) of the Budget of Public Finance Management Act, Cap 412A, provides that the National Treasury shall submit to Parliament the Budget Policy Statement on or before the 15th of each year. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to provisions of these provisions, the National Treasury and Economic Planning submitted the Budget Policy Statement to Parliament the 13th of February 2025, and thereafter committed to this committee for processing. Mr. Speaker, the Budget Policy Statement is a government policy document that sets out broad strategic priorities of government and how to fund them, including borrowing. Mr. Speaker, the Budget Policy Statement ordinarily contains an assessment of current state of affairs of the economy, including the macroeconomic forecast, as well as priorities of the government in terms of the current pillars of growth and strategic directions. It also includes the financial outlook concerning government revenues, expenditures, as well as also a borrowing framework to finance the budget over the next financial year and over the medium term. Mr. Speaker, it also includes the proposed expenditure limits for the national government, including Parliament and Judiciary, as well as the shareable revenue indicative for county governments. It also includes the fiscal responsibility principles and objectives over the medium term, including limits on the total debt. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee engaged with various stakeholders, and among them, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, Council of Governors, Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the Budgetary Hub, the County Assemblies Forum, the Institute of Public Finance, HENET, the Institute of Economic Affairs, Okoa Uchumi, and we engage with 13 constitutional commissions and independent office and 2 independent officers. And members of the public, Mr. Kelvin Ronyo, Mr. Peter Njoroge, and Mr. Eliud Matindi have also submitted their memorandum to the committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, the theme of 2025 budget policy statement is consolidating gains under the bottoms-up economic transformation agenda for inclusive green growth. The budget policy statement envisions the global economic growth. It envisioned the global economic growth to be at 3.2% in 2024, and it projected a 3.3% growth for 2025 and 2026. The economic growth in developing economies like ours, it was projected to stabilize at 4.2. And I'm happy to report that ours is stabilized at 4.6 in the preceding year. Supported by technological advancement and growing consumer base and infrastructure development. Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Treasury projected initially the economic growth for 2024-2025 at 5.6, but the actual performance declined to 4.6 for that projection. And the budget policy statement projects that in the coming year, 2025-2026, 2026-2027, the economy to grow at 5.3% in both those 2 years. This growth is expected improvement from 4.6 is attributed to expected agricultural performance favorable in the current financial year to continue in the coming financial year, supported by also government policies such as subsidized fertilizer and also a stabilization of our currency. Mr. Speaker, sir, the budget policy statement indicates that inflation has gone down and remained within the 5% target band since 2024. It was primarily driven by substantial drops in energy prices across, which is global, and ongoing moderation of, and the food prices have also stabilized. Mr. Speaker, sir, key contributors growth in fuel and food prices in the country between January 2020 of the Kenya shillings, which now stands at about 128.5 to the dollar. Mr. Speaker, sir, under the revenue outlook, the projected total revenue collection for financial year 2025-2026 is Kenya shillings 3,385.8 billion, which is about 17.6% share of the GDP. Mr. Speaker, this represents an improvement of 11%, which translates to 325.8 billion. Relative to this projection of Kenya shillings 3,060 billion for financial year 2024, the projections the outlook looks a lot better. the government expects to collect 2,825 billion as ordinary revenue and 550.7 billion from ministries in form of appropriation in aid. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first half of 2024-2025, the performance of our economy has been that total revenue performance fell short of target by 107.7 billion from the projected 1,442.3 billion. As at December 2024, which with a collection that was realized of 1,334.7 billion. This was majorly occasioned by the underperformance of the ordinary revenue to the tune of about 93.3 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 2025 budget policy statement proposes several initiatives to improve revenue collection, which include the operationalization of national tax policy and the medium-term revenue strategy 2025-2026 to 2026-2027. Mr. Speaker, sir, the proposed overall budget for the financial year 2025-2026 is projected to be at 4,336.1 billion, which is 9.8%, translating to 387.7 billion, above the approved expenditures in Supplementary Estimate 1 for financial year 2024-2025. The main drivers of the increase in the proposed expenditure, Mr. Speaker, are the national government ministerial expenditure, which is 7%, which translates to 261.6 billion. Increased expenditures under consolidated fund, CFS, of 131 billion, and the projected fiscal deficit for financial year 2025-2026 at 831 billion, which stands at 4.3% of the GDP. From the actual borrowing for financial year 2023-2024, which was 880.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, the shareable revenue, ordinary revenues, is expected to grow from the projection of 2,575.9 billion at the end of financial year 2024-2025 to 2,835 billion in the financial year 2025-2026. Out of this, the budget policy statement proposes to allocate 405.1 billion to county shareable revenue, which is equivalent to 14% of the shareable revenue, translating to about 17 billion increase from the current 387.4 billion allocated in financial year 2024-2025. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government proposes an additional allocation to county government to the tune of 69.8 billion in the financial year 2025-2026 as additional revenues to county government. The additional resources are conditional grant, translating to 12.89, which is directly by the national government, and proceeds from loans and grants from development partners, translating to 56.91 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the financial year 2025-2026, the government proposes to allocate 10.5 billion to equalization fund, out of which 7.8 billion is the 0.5% constitutional requirement and 2.7 billion as contributions towards arrears of equalization fund, which has never literally worked, and the arrears now stand at almost 39 billion. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal risk relating to county government also has been indicated in the budget policy statement. From a projection of 80.9 billion of ONSA's revenue collection, the county government for financial year 2023-2024 only managed to collect 58.9 billion, which is which indicates a revenue shortfall of 22 billion. Mr. Speaker, the committee held a total of 12 sittings to deliberate on budget policy statement and made several observations, which include the proposed revenue mobilization strategy as contained in the budget policy statement for 2025-2026 is similar with the one that they proposed in 2024-2025 budget policy statement, which raises concern about the effectiveness of these initiatives in regard to expected robust revenue performance as projected by the BPS. Mr. Speaker, the planned borrowing of 684.2 billion from the domestic market and 146.8 from the external sources to finance the projected budget deficit of 831 billion for financial year 2025-2026 may lead to crowding out private sector lending, as banks will prefer lending to government over the private sector, which also poses a major risk to the private businesses in the country. The most preferable situation is that of larger borrowing from the international lenders and limit the borrowing from the local market. Mr. Speaker, sir, the ordinary revenue is projected to grow by about 10%, which is an increase of 259.1 billion. However, despite this overall growth, the county equitable share for financial year 2025-2026 is proposed to increase by a paltry 17.7 billion. Mr. Speaker, in December 2024, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, IGRTC, identified and delineated and transferred several functions to county government. However, the Budget Policy Statement 2025 does not outline a framework for allocating resources to the transferred functions, which is necessary resources to support these functions. The absence of clear policy direction contradicts the principle that resources follow functions, potentially hindering effective service delivery at the county level. Mr. Speaker, the government intends to scale up funding for road sector, including financing and settlement of pending bills. The road sector, as you know, is very, very key to mobility and economic performance of this country. However, Mr. Speaker, there are limited finances and there has been accrued pending bills by both levels of government. However, in this regard, the budget policy statement has not brought out that aspect of the clarity on the borrowing. That is the infrastructure bond that is intended to be floated, that to be financed by about the 7 shillings per litre increase that was projected for the road to be able to settle the road sector pending bills. For the road sector, including using part of the RMLF as security to borrow and raise additional funds of about 175 billion to pay pending bills. Mr. Speaker, it's not only the national government that has pending bills on the road sector. The county governments also have pending bills. The additional 7 shillings following the rise of the levy from 18 to 25 in July last year, and which is intended to finance the bond to collect about 175 billion. This major shift means front-loading the use of RMLF by accessing quantum amounts now and use the periodic collection to offset the facility. Mr. Speaker, the committee has recommended setting aside 13.9 billion from the expected collection of RMLF for financial year 2025-2026 and a proportionate amount as a share of the 175 billion to be able to also facilitate county governments to offset their pending bills on roads. Mr. Speaker, while recent cabinet proposal to merge Kura and Kera is a step in the right direction, the budget policy document has not addressed itself to the issues relating to what that will entail in both those entities. Mr. Speaker, the committee made several recommendations, which include financial recommendations as follows. The county equitable share for financial year 2025-2026 be increased to 465.1 billion for the county government. Mr. Speaker, this is informed, and also the national government equitable share to remain, to be apportioned at 2,359,449,000,000. That the equalization fund be allocated 10.5 billion. That the additional allocation to counties be at 69.802 billion. That the commissions and independent entities that appeared before this committee have presented very justifiable reasons why some adjustment in terms of budgetary allocation is to be realized. The cumulative allocation proposed by the committee, Mr. Speaker, is about 2.4 billion for financial year 2025-2026. Mr. Speaker, the justification by the counties, by the committee for the proposal of 465 billion to a shareable revenue to county governments is as follows. The committee's recommendation on the county equitable share to be set at 465 billion is informed by consideration of the prevailing economic conditions in the country, such as general economic performance, expected revenue inflation factors, among others. Further, the committee took into account the non-discretionary expenditure from the national government priorities expected to be implemented by the counties. Mr. Speaker, the 465 billion is based on approved Division of Revenue Act number 7 of 2024, which contained an allocation of 400.01 billion, adjusted by an inflation factor of about 4%, bringing that figure to 416 billion. This normally covers the additional growth in shareable revenue and general inflation in the economy. On top of this, the committee added the following non-discretionary expenditure to be borne by counties as follows. The impact of housing levy, which is legislation passed at the national level that has direct impact on the counties, amounting to 4.1 billion. Contributions to NSSF, which was enhanced, that translates to about 6 billion. Matching allocation on county aggregation industrial parks, which is a national government priority project meant to improve the market situation within the country, amounting to 11.8 billion. Matching allocation to community health promoters, which was a pronouncement of the national government, which is shared on 50-50, amounting to 3.23 billion. An annual wage increment in the IPPD system, which happens automatically, amounting to 6.3 billion cumulatively for the 47 counties. And basic salary increment, as per the Dr. CBA 27/2021, execution of return to work formula of 3.5 billion, all totaling to an extra 34.9 billion, which is required to be financed by the counties. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, allow me to inform or bring to the attention to the Senate that from the time we suffered COVID-19, shareable revenues to county government have stagnated. For 2 financial years, it remained 370. Then there was marginal adjustment that moved it to 385. And then the only reasonable movement upward was when we proposed 400, and that was later through an amendment to Division of Revenue Act brought down to 387.7, meaning the county governments for an approximate almost 4 to 5 years have not realized any substantive revenue increase, while the revenues of government have continuously performed well in terms of increment year after year, which justifies the certain position that, the position that we as the committee recommends for the House to adopt. Further, it is expected that sharing of equitable revenue among counties in financial year 2025-2026 shall be used based on the proposed fourth basis of revenue sharing, which, based on the controversies that crowded the third basis of revenue sharing in this same Senate, we envisage a challenging situation ahead. And because of that, the committee in its wisdom has proposed 14 billion to cushion all counties from transitional effects of the new basis of revenue sharing. All these add up to 465 billion, and hence the committee recommends the House to adopt this county equitable share for financial year 2025-2026. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate all stakeholders who appeared before this committee. Other than our traditional stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, we have engaged with 13 constitutional commissions and 2 independent bodies for the first time. And I also want to extend our appreciation to the members of the Committee of Finance and Budget who had to endure long hours to be able to engage with these strategic stakeholders to take their input. I also wish to appreciate your office, Mr. Speaker, and that of the clerk for facilitating committee activities flawlessly without any hitch. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I request honourable senators to approve the committee's report on the 2025 budget policy statement. And as I move, I wish to request my brother, Honourable Senator Dr. Boni Kalwale, to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to second this motion. And Mr. Speaker, before I do so, I beg you to allow me. This chairman who has just presented this, moved the motion, Eddie there, Okech, and myself, Senator Abdallah there, Esther Kenyuri, and Honorable Mariam. We have spent a lot of time painstakingly listened to all commissions, combed through this budget policy statement to bring you a quality report. See the level of participation in the House. Mr. Speaker, we are joking. We've been saying all over that, Senate should be given an opportunity to look at the budget. The National Assembly should not be the only one doing it. Where are we today when we are discussing the same matter of the little intervention that we have been given? This deceit must end in this country. Leaders have come to Nairobi to joke with the lives of wananchi. Today, Mr. Speaker, thanks to the lead that we were given by the chair, I have made shocking discoveries in the budget policy statement. Honorable Richard Onyonga has been speaking time without end about budgeted corruption. Inside this budget policy statement, truly, there is documented evidence of budgeted corruption. Mr. Speaker, the way they have done it in this one is that they have taken 29.77 billion shillings that is supposed to go to counties, have taken it to the national government. And by taking it to the government, national government, before you look at it, you can scream that the principle of the national government carrying out functions that are meant to be done by a devolved structure of government is the only one they are abusing. They have done far much more, Mr. Speaker. They have, in the process, made an amorphous reference to projects and programs that they will never implement. Mr. Speaker, as I second, allow me to draw the attention of this Senate and the whole country to these big jokes. No wonder, Mr. Chairman, sir, the Minister for Finance chickened out. He didn't come before us because he knew we were going to draw his attention to the 29.77 billion shillings, which he is allowing to be taken away from county governments. If that money had been allowed to go to county governments, the shareable revenue would have risen from 387 that we have given counties to 419. This is a crime sin. Mr. Speaker, allow me, I know you won't refuse, to move a motion of censure against the Minister for Finance so as to send him a clear message. He cannot tell the media that he cannot come before our committee because he expects us to make reference to the presentation he gave in the National Assembly. He's underrating this institution to very high levels. Mr. Speaker, in this misadventure, 7.2 billion shillings meant for health by county government has been removed and brought to Afya House. To do what, Mr. Speaker? 50 million to go to Kigumo Hospital in Nyeri. Why can they allow the governor of Nyeri to implement that development worth 50 million shillings in his hospital, in his county? Number two, 50 million to go to Kibugwa Health Center in Tarakanidhi. Why can they allow the governor of Tarakanidhi to preside over this development? Mr. Speaker, 100 million to go to Kiambu, to Listigeti Hospital in a Kikuyu constituency. This is not equity. It's such a hospital serving 4 million people. But in Kikuyu, not in Kikuyu, in Kiambu, there are 5 such hospitals, and they can afford to add them another 100 million so as to keep on adding insult to injury. This is a house of equity. We want to call the National Treasury to order. This is deal cutting and not budgeting. Mr. Speaker, then they have ended an amorphous thing. They call it Reproductive Maternal Neonatal Care Child and Adolescent Health Project. They have given it 1.8 billion shillings. What they want to do, they can lie to some of the senators, but you can't lie to me. I'm a doctor of medicine. I know what you're talking about. This is an opportunity to remove money from the budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, cause the minister to come before us. We want to pin him down so that this is corrected before we go to printed estimates. Mr. Speaker, they have put another one called Free Maternity Program. All Kenyans watching me now know that the Linda Mama program is not functional. It is the one where mothers used to get free treatment. And now, in the budget, they have put there, Mr. Speaker, sir, 2.04 billion shillings for a program that is not functional. So, on what do they want to expend these 2 billion shillings? Mr. Speaker, this country is so rich. I mean, if we can afford the luxury of billions just disappearing at Afya House, imagine if that money would be pumped into our schools, would be pumped into our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, we have a great country, but we must do more as leaders. You go to Mr. Speaker, the road sector. Projects that should have been done by county governments worth 1.011 billion shillings that have been taken to the national government. To do what? To work on rural access roads in Kajiado, 65 million shillings. Why can they allow Governor Lengu of Kajiado to have these 65 million shillings, and he will decide using his county assembly on which access roads in Kajiado can be done? It simply means they want him to use the paltry budget that he has to fix those, and then there'll be double accounting. The guys at Ministry of Health, they'll say those roads were fixed at 65 million. It's only Parliament which can correct that. And we happen at this time to be the parliamentarians. Mr. Speaker, I don't know in Kilifi. That's where you were born and bred and where you live. I don't know the senator of Mandera. On your way from Isiolo all the way to Mandera, have you ever in your life seen a project of the government constructing bus stages? Have you seen it? That these are stages, modern stages being constructed. You go to Kigali in Luanda, they have constructed proper stages. We have none. And yet, in this budget, Mr. Speaker, budget line number 1091175,200 is for construction of such stages. And how much money is set aside? 203 million. That will never be spent. That will make some people look richer than me. You are not richer than me, I'm telling you. You are so poor. You're going to go to your graves with a big debt of 203 million, and I'll walk to heaven with no debt of stolen money. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow the executive to get away with this. 203 million to construct bus stages, and yet you have never seen one in Kilifi, Migori. I don't know whether you've seen. I have served this country, Mr. Speaker, as a doctor in Kwale County, Mombasa County, Kisii County, Nairobi County, Kirinyaga County, and Kakamega County. I have never seen bus stages being constructed. This is theft. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to conclude by speaking to 300 million, which again has been gutted from the devolved structure of government. And that 300 million, they are telling us they are going to use it on enhancing community resilience and water security. Please, take this 300 million, take it to Turkana, or let Turkana share with Marsabit, so that they give our children their water. Children of God. The women in Turkana spend their entire lives looking for water. They cannot be economically productive in their families. And yet you have 300 million that will sit here at Afia House, not at Afia House, at, is it called Maji House or something? At the Ministry of Water. And guys are going to share it. And our children will continue scavenging for water in Lodwar, in Kibish, in all those places. And yet the resources of the Republic of Kenya can support this. Mr. Speaker, I hope colleagues will do us a favor. If you want us to continue working for you, colleagues, as a Committee of Finance, then please be here when we bring you the report of our work. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, I will not be coming to your meetings at 8:30. I mean at 7:30, missing breakfast with my toothless daughter. When I see her toothless mouth as I eat, I feel very nice. But you deny me that chance because I'm coming to do this work, which looks like it's thankless. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I second.
Now, honorable senators, I'll proceed to propose the question that the Senate adopt the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2025 budget policy statement laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, the 12th March of 2025, and pursuant to Section 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order 186(7) of the Senate, approves the 2025 budget policy statement. Now, the floor is open. Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to also share some thoughts on this BPS for this year. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to start my comment today by looking at Chapter 15 of our Constitution. And Chapter 15 of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is dedicated to commissions and independent offices. And Mr. Speaker, this chapter says that, it applies to the commissions specified in Clause 2 and the independent offices specified in Clause 3, except to the extent that this Constitution provides otherwise. And then it goes ahead and lists all the independent commission that we must have, Mr. Speaker. But then further to Chapter 249 of the Kenyan Constitution, we are provoked as a country to think about the objects and authority, and further even on the funding of these commissions, the independent offices that we have established as a country. And Mr. Speaker, there is a reason as why we have got these independent institutions. Because if you look at pre-2010, it was very difficult to predict graft, arrest graft, deter graft, and most importantly, eliminate graft in the country, Mr. Speaker. And if you look at the way all the commissions are structured, they're indeed structured to be independent to the extent that you can be able to stop graft in the country. But, Mr. Speaker, this House, since inception in 2013, has done disservice to Article 249 of the Constitution. Because in Article 249 of the Constitution, it talks about 249(3), that Parliament shall allocate adequate funds to enable each commission and independent offices to perform its function, and the budget of each commission and independent offices shall be a separate vote. What this means, Mr. Speaker, is that while in the mind of our colleagues in the National Assembly, the Senate is not supposed to participate in the budget-making process in terms of active allocation and in terms of thinking about strong money bills that come out of these houses, Mr. Speaker, this particular article of the Constitution makes it mandatory that the Senate must indeed participate in this process. And I want to congratulate this committee because for the first time, Mr. Speaker, all the commissioners were invited as partners to be able to submit and to be able to give these eyes a bird's-eye view position on the challenges they are facing in the budget-making process. Why am I highlighting this, Mr. Speaker? I'm highlighting this because the CS of Finance and Budget, who actually used to be my party chairman, disparaged this committee by not showing up to be able to listen to what this committee has as concerns in this budget-making process and the budget policy statement that is going to be a crux of what is going to inform the finance bill that will come in the next few coming months, Mr. Speaker. So it's so wrong for my former chairman of ODM and the current CS, John Mbadi, not to pay attention to what this House has to be able to contribute to this budget-making process. Mr. Speaker, it's so bad to the extent that if you look at the submission made by, for instance, the control of budget, one of the biggest problems that we have been struggling with as a House that is supposed to do oversight on counties is the issue of automation of processes of requisition of money going to our counties. And Mr. Speaker, this is how this process works, which is why, Mr. Speaker, if you look at this report, the committee has actually recommended significantly marginal increase on the money that is being given to these commissions. We have recommended about 10% on average to all the other commissions, and I think that the commissioners, I hope they are listening to this House, that they must be added money to effectively make sure that there is no graft in our county. And there have been added money to make sure that there is no graft within the nation of Kenya. Because the two watchdog commissions, Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General and the Control of Budget, have rightfully gained our respect from their submissions to make sure that they can be able to have up to 20% increment of the money that they envisioned, that the National Treasury envisioned at what they should be given from the budget policy statement. And I'll tell you why, Mr. Speaker. Because of time, I just use an example of lack of automation of requisitions that Control of Budget has to deal with every single moment. Mr. Speaker, today if you go to our counties, and this exercise we went through with the Finance and Budget Committee when it came from Migori County, if you go and look at the kind of requisitions that are made, for instance, Mr. Speaker, you'll find that the Control of Budget is given requisition with invoices for commercial entities that have done supplies in counties or have done any kind of works in counties to the tunes of X amount of money. And then after giving the authorization that is required by the Constitution under 225, Article 225, after giving authorization to governors, they will then go, and in the IFMIS and IB, you will find that now those invoices are no longer there. If there were 100 invoices given to Control of Budget at the time of requisition, when you go at the time of payment, you'll find that one invoice now is being given, consolidating all the other stakeholders who had supplies to a county, consolidated into one invoice at the point of payment, to the extent that voiding has become part and parcel of our DNA for payment. Mr. Speaker, money is getting lost in ways that is embarrassing, that is demotivating, that is annoying in counties because of lack of automation in the requisition process by the COB. What is wrong if the COB appears before us and appears before this House through our committee and makes a requisition for further financing to make automation possible? So I want to congratulate this committee, Mr. Speaker, for having strongly listened to all the commissioners and having listened to them to the extent that we have taken an active role in making sure that those commissions and independent offices have been added money in this budget-making process. And I hope that the CS of Finance and National Treasury, Mr. Speaker, will listen to our proposals in this particular report and make sure that those commissions are given what is due to them. And those independent offices are empowered through this budget-making process to get adequate resources to perform their functions. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is the report from the committee that I sit in, or rather the submission from the Committee of Transport, Road, and Housing that was given to this committee. And I think members can find it in that report. And one of the things that we depicted, Mr. Speaker, is the fight that has continued to go on within the realms of Parliament and within the corridors of court on the issue of RMLF. Mr. Speaker, this is a fight that in this report we have said that if this report passes in this House, when the finance bill comes to these houses, Mr. Speaker, and the issue of RMLF is not solved according to recommendations made by this committee, in this report, we will not pass subsequent budgetary bills in this House. And there's a reason to why, Mr. Speaker. RMLF, right now, you know that when it came about, the government was taking about 18 shillings from RMLF. From that 18 shillings, there's been a contention, time without number, on 10 billion that is supposed to go to counties for a very simple reason. They are county roads, they are national government roads. All these roads are being used by Kenyans, and you cannot take money from a levy that you're taking from Kenyans and choose to give one part of the government money to maintain those roads, and the other is denied. Mr. Speaker, the problem is so endemic that today I was dealing with a matter of Sangalu to Sangalu to it's called what? Where Senator Sifuna comes, the home of Senator Sifuna. Kandui. Mr. Speaker, there's a road there that is extremely important for the performance of businesses in Bungoma County. It's just about 6 kilometers worth of road. It's a national road, the Sangalu-Kandui Road. And that road, it was given to county government to do it, and it is taking a hit on county government because it needs about 1.2 billion to be able to do that road. That 1.2 billion, Mr. Speaker, is taking a hit on the county government of Bungoma. The county government of Bungoma has struggled and paid 512 million to start that road. And it has been tarmacked halfway, Mr. Speaker. But then, when you look at the portion that the national government was supposed to do, Mr. Speaker, that has made that road stall, and now forcing the county government of Bungoma to start thinking about budgeting in this year's budget to put another 212 million to be able to continue with the construction of that road, Mr. Speaker, it is unfair. Yet if you look at RMLF, Mr. Speaker, it is continued to be a battle, and a battle that we are not winning. But in this time round, Mr. Speaker, I think we should win it. Mr. Speaker, you remember last year on RMLF, there was another levy that was increased on the same fund, Mr. Speaker. 7 shillings that was added on motorists. That 7 shillings, Mr. Speaker, was to further enable RMLF continue being strong in terms of financing maintenance of these roads, Mr. Speaker. That means that today, we are taking up to 25 shillings out of Kenyans to fund RMLF. But now, Mr. Speaker, in this BPS, the 7 shillings is actually not proposed to go and take care of roads that are supposed to be maintained. What is happening, Mr. Speaker, is that the 7 shillings has been put into a road bond, and that road bond has been floated into the capital markets, and I think that already Trade Development Bank and other banks are participating, so that the bond is going to help the national government deal with the backlog of pending bills on existing projects. Because currently, Mr. Speaker, the national roads have got a pending bill of about 175 billion. That 175 billion, Mr. Speaker, out of it, we have got project-affected persons who are still claiming about 39 billion out of this. And it means, Mr. Speaker, that if it is not solved, it becomes a crisis. Yet the solution for solving it, Mr. Speaker, again is RMLF, where the 7 billion has now been put into road bond. Now, the fundamental question we are asking is very simple, Mr. Speaker. If the levy is taken on all Kenyans, why can't the bond also be divided between the national government and the counties, so that counties who are also having serious pending bills, like Bungoma that I've just quoted, that has got about a pending bill of 212 million on the Sangalu Kandui Road, why can't they also get a fair share of that road bond to be able to deal with county government's stuck roads and pending bills that are related to roads that are maintained by counties? It is in our report, Mr. Speaker. So on RMLF alone, Mr. Speaker, we are urging the House that the report is recommending 13.9 billion that must go to counties, on RMLF, because they deserve it. And we are recommending that we must also make sure that the road bond is shared with counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, I want to echo the thoughts that have been shared by my brother, Senator Boni Alwale. And Mr. Speaker, perhaps before I finish, this is such an important issue that I'm realizing that there are no members in this House, Mr. Speaker, to discuss, and there's only members of the Finance and Budget Committee. So I don't know whether under standing order number 1, Mr. Speaker, perhaps you could rule that we're given more time to give the nation some ideas of what is going on. Because if there are no members in the House, and this is a very important issue, and I only have my 20 minutes, and I can do justice to this particular BPS with another 5 more minutes, Mr. Speaker, it's up to your discretion, Mr. Speaker. But I know you've been a very generous speaker to us in this House. Perhaps you'll consider. But as I said, Mr. Speaker, the issue of budgeting for national functions vis-a-vis county functions, Mr. Speaker, is something we must confront. Under Schedule 4 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, it is very clear, like day, what belongs as a functions of counties and what belongs as a functions of national government. This behavior, this conundrum of national government consistently hiding hiding county functions in the budget-making process and taking it to the national government instead of financing counties, Mr. Speaker, this is why this House was formed. This is why Article 96 of the Constitution exists, Mr. Speaker, to protect the interests of counties, to protect the ideology of devolution. Mr. Speaker, you cannot have 22, in fact, I want to be very precise, Mr. Speaker, that I want to invite this House to 29,774,229,484 shillings. That is money that has been budgeted by the national government on purely county functions. There is no any excuse structurally, ideologically, financially, operationally, politically, in whichever form you take it, Mr. Speaker, even in economic policy, there is no any excuse to have these monies go to national government. Mr. Speaker, we can't allow this. These 29 billion, Mr. Speaker, must go to counties. It must go to counties. And Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of the agreement, the cooperation agreement that President Ruto and Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga signed recently on the idea of entrenching devolution, promoting devolution, empowering devolution, making sure that devolution can work, Mr. Speaker. They said that there's a possibility of concurrence between Parliament and the executive to even give counties 450 billion. We are now giving them a scientific solution to be able to make sure that these monies go to county. And the scientific solution is this, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I beg for 5 minutes to go through this. The scientific solution is very simple. On vote D133 on State Department for Environment and Climate Change, go and look at that vote on BPS, Mr. Speaker. On the idea of national solid waste management, 40 million that has been given to the national government and that department must go to county. Dear Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, dear President Ruto,
That money must go to county. On vote D1331, on plastic waste management.
Give the Honorable Senator further 5 minutes. Yes.
Sure. I can always be informed by the Senator.
Yes. I just want to inform the distinguished senator from Migori that I hear him daring and begging the president and the former prime minister. That is the beginning of where we get it wrong. The solution lies in this parliament. For your information, the chairman of the Budget and Appropriation Committee is a member of ODM, member number 350, I've forgotten, called Honorable Atandi. Can you please use your internal structure to inform Atandi to carry out this, instead of giving the country the impression that the republic belongs to the two principals, the president and the former prime minister?
Mr. Speaker, that's a very valid information, but I think that the context is more important than information. The context here is this, and I know that whip was not in the signing of the cooperation agreement, when the president and the former prime minister were signing the agreement. The context is this. They pronounced, and the Senate might not have had a scientific way to get to 450 billion, because the committee already has recommended that we give counties 405 billion. Scientifically, this committee is never out of science. But I'm adding more science to the committee and telling the committee that if you look at the budget, the budget that has been proposed in the BPS, there is more money, Honorable Boni Alwale, there is more money that must be given to be added to the 405 billion, to make it 465 billion. That's what I'm saying. And I'm informing you that on these votes, these monies must go to counties. And I'm going to say them very fast. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me. I've said that on vote D1331, 12 million that is put there to go on sound chemical and waste management in Kenya, take it back to counties. Enhancing community resilience and water security, that's a county function. 300 million, Mr. Speaker, must go to counties. On vote D1152, State Department for Energy, the money that has been put there of 1.4 billion for the last mile electricity connectivity and a better must go to county. Mr. Speaker, on the same vote, critical rural access last mile connectivity, 200 million must go to county. Mr. Speaker, on vote D1162, State Department for Livestock and Development, 20 million put for livestock production interventions. Agriculture must go to county. Mr. Speaker, on the same vote, establishment of feedlots, fodder and pasture, a whooping 50 million, Mr. Speaker, must go to county. Mr. Speaker, on vote D1104, State Department of Irrigation, Mr. Speaker, smallholder irrigation program, 7 billion must go to county, Mr. Speaker. On community-based irrigation projects, 1 billion must go to counties, Mr. Speaker. On vote D1091, State Department of Roads, access roads to affordable housing facilities, a whooping 325 million, Mr. Speaker, must go to counties. And Mr. Speaker, on access to roads to industrial park facilities, already counties are contributing to this, Mr. Speaker, and they're struggling in their physical space. A whooping 290 million, Mr. Speaker, must go to county. And Mr. Speaker, because of pressure of time, I must say that if I summarize, the all vote around State Department for Medical Services, a vote of 7.2 billion, that money must go to counties. A whole vote on State Department for the SAL and Regional Development, a whooping 2.7 billion must go to counties. And a whole vote on what we call State Department for Environment and Climate Change, which is coming to about 374 million, Mr. Speaker, must both go to county. Let's insist as a House that we're not going to sit and watch as people claw back on devolution by using a better process that denies counties the power to take control of the basic needs of our people, because that is what Schedule 4 that allocated these functions to county desired to do. Let counties have money to deal with the basic needs. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support and want to be grateful to the Chair of Finance and Budget and the members of the committee for being here so far until now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddy, thank you for the contributions that you have made to that policy statement. And I have requests from members who are not in the chamber. Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki, he's not in the chamber. Senator Esi Okinyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. First, before I go into contributing to the BPS, allow me to send my sincere condolences to the family and friends of baby Riwad Yasir Nur. This is a baby whose case of negligence as a member previously of the Health Committee we were investigating. Unfortunately, we lost the baby and is being buried today according to the Muslim traditions. And it's very unfortunate that even the report is yet to be tabled on that baby for the family to get justice. May Noor's soul rest in eternal peace. Mr. Speaker, as I now get back to the budget policy statement, I'm a member of that committee, and we've taken quite a number of engagements to listen to the different stakeholders who came and fronted their proposals. We had the independent commissions who came by and gave what they think. Of interest was one, the Human Rights Commission. Mr. Speaker, we actually learned that most of these independent commissions have no budget to actually open their offices in the different parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, looking at the recent conflict we've had at the border of the Kisis and Maasais, had we had such a commission, it would be very easy to investigate injustices commissioned in those areas. So, Mr. Speaker, because of lack of budget, this particular commission is not able to have an office in that region, and residents in that area end up suffering because they have to travel all the way either to Nairobi or the nearest offices. Mr. Speaker, if I follow what Senator Halwale was actually saying, Parliament has space to correct some of these issues. We cannot leave this for the political, want the politics at play to determine what we are going to allocate. If we have the mandate to propose what budgetary allocations should go to what sectors, I think let's not leave that to appear that we are pleading with the two principles to actually give special consideration, as my colleague Senator Eddy was trying to put into context. Mr. Speaker, there are several other issues that have come to play. Look at the health sector. Look at the roads. Look at so many other issues which have been actually highlighted. So when we have such critical matters, and I want to mention this particular issue that the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury failed to bring his views to this committee because he had already submitted the same in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I think as a Senate, we are really missing the point. When the Constitution pronounces itself on what Parliament is both the National Assembly and the Senate, and we have a role to play because these are matters which are touching on counties. So I feel the conduct of the Cabinet Secretary to this committee needs to be noted, and the Senate needs to bite, or rather we get an explanation as to why the particular Cabinet Secretary decided to take the route he took, even after we as the members of the committee have burnt midnight oil trying to come up with this report to present to the House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we can see that we have overall projections show that inflation is within the targeted ranges that had been given, and this decline shows that then we need to add more resources, because initially we said inflation levels are very high, so we were cutting down on money that is going down to, for instance, counties. Now that inflation is coming down, we expect that counties this time round are going to actually get more money. And Mr. Speaker, my plea to county chiefs, especially when it comes to use of this money, let us use money wisely so that we are not having county chiefs who are wasting public resources, when we in Nairobi are working very hard to ensure that they are getting this money so that we have services closer to the people, are actually taking it for granted. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of on-source revenue, this is something we also need to touch on, because most of the pending bills that we are talking about in this budget policy statement are as a result of counties overestimating their own sources of revenue. We want counties, in fact, I'm actually working behind the curtain to have a proposal that is going to force counties state what they are actually able to raise, basing it on the last own source of revenue that they were actually able to raise, so that we do not have counties projecting more than they are able to actually actualize, so that we're ending up with large amounts of pending bills. But I generally want to thank our chair for actually being with the members of the committee throughout this process, that we now have this report for the members to actually contribute. Unfortunately, in such an evening, we have very few members, and these are matters which are touching their counties. Citizens from the different counties are waiting to see what do we have to say concerning the ordinary people. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate...
Senator Eddy, what is your point of order? Senator Essie, resume your seat.
Mr. Speaker, this is a compassionate clause, in the sense that, and I never want to interrupt the chair of trade, because I could be in trouble. There's a bill of mine that's in trade, but that's on a lighter note. But Mr. Speaker, this is the thing. I think on a compassionate clause, after consultation with a few members here and there on WhatsApp, I've actually realized that the House is seemingly empty, because our colleague, Senator Betty Montet, lost the husband, and apparently the service was actually today in the afternoon. And most of us, were there yesterday with her on the service yesterday night, but today is a major family service, and a number of colleagues, not a few, but a significant number of colleagues have gone to be with her. So I don't want to say that this is indicative of the House, but the reason why the House seems to be empty, I have just been reminded that is because most of us have gone to be with our sister Betty. But that said, some of us are here also to be able to make sure that the House business is transacted, and we will give this bill the report, the justice that it requires. I just wanted to say that because she's concerned the way we are concerned, Senator Acey is concerned the way we are concerned about the population in the House, but that's the reason.
Thank you, Senator Eddy. I believe that answers the concern that was raised by the Honorable Senator Acey Okinyuri as to whereabouts of the members of this House. Senator Ed,
Thank you, Mr.
Please
Speaker,
continue.
and thank you, Senator Eddy, for being compassionate enough. We share the loss with our colleague, Senator Montet, and hopefully we'll be able to join the rest of our colleagues once we exit. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I want to look at some of what we as a committee were recommending, that I'd actually mentioned this, in order to bring services closer to the people. Some of these, and actually all of these constitutional commissions, need to have the independent officers decentralized to the other counties, so that we don't have people traveling very long distances to get the services they require, so that we generally serve people, because that was the whole essence of devolution. So, Mr. Speaker, I do not want to go much into this. Let me leave my colleagues to contribute, and I want to support the report. Thank you.
Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to also support the report from Finance Committee, which I'm also the member there. Mr. Speaker, first, before I continue, I also condolences to Ridwan, which is a baby Ridwan from Kirinyaga. And may Lord put his soul in eternal peace. Mr. Speaker, first, the benefit of the budget. I think the CS Treasury, even if he's in that position, he don't know the benefit of budget. Let me highlight the benefit of the budget. The budget is it improves financial decision making. It also helps the accountability and the transparency. If at all the CS will know the benefits of the budget, that is accountability and the transparency, he will have come in to the committees, so that he can highlight the accountabilities and the transparency of the budget we have taken through. It also helps in managing debts and credits, and it encourages also saving. Mr. Speaker, the budget addresses unemployment. Mr. Speaker, on this unemployment, there is value chain, which the budget touch on, which is agricultural side, but they have left out the pastoralist sector, which is pastoralist community. Mr. Speaker, in the side of the health sector, there is a project, there is 29 billion, which has been budgeted under MDA, that is Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and it's supposed to be devolution project, which is supposed to be done by the county, and it went to the ministry, and I strictly condemn that that 29 must be strictly go back to the county. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is an issue of pending bills. Mr. Speaker, if we will have known the importance of the budget, that is accountability and transparency, we wouldn't have that volume of the pending bills, which is supposed to be a fast charge on this. Mr. Speaker, when we are transacting with the stakeholders, we realize that we call commissions and independent commissions, and we went through almost 6 of them. Mr. Speaker, that is the first time. This is the first time we are calling commissions, and that shows that we are fighting for, as a Senate, we are fighting for our space, that the budget is the 2 houses, not only National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I was also in the committee listening to the stakeholders. One of the impression which came to my attention is the oversight department, that is control of budgets and Auditor General Office. Mr. Speaker, Auditor General Office, most of their work is travel and expenses. And their work is normally they go through all the documents of the counties and national governments. And because of cut expenses of the transport, they were hurted. So in that scenario, we need expenditure of the transport of the Auditor General not to be touched, because that is the key mandate of the auditors. Mr. Speaker, the other one is control of budget. Mr. Speaker, there is an expenses, there is a budget they have put as 50 million for automations, which has not been funded. Mr. Speaker, as a committee, we requested that that office must be automated so that they link through the Ministry of Treasury to the CBK. That link need automations, and it is required that when it comes to exchequer transactions and approval, it will not take time. That is what the auditor concluded. Mr. Speaker, allocation of the recurrent expenditure, this is under PFM. Under 2025, the projection is 79.123. That's a projection for the budget for proposal. Mr. Speaker, the continuation in the increase in the debt service will also take a huge part of the budget, which will expected to utilize the devolution, utilize as development budget. Mr. Speaker, the debt owned by KPLC. Mr. Speaker, the debt owned by KPLC by the county government amounted to 4.3 billion as November 2024. Mr. Speaker, that is specifically with the Nairobi County. Mr. Speaker, that is what happened last week, what happened between the county government and KPLC. Mr. Speaker, when I trace on this KPLC issue, Mr. Speaker, KPLC, they are mistreating counties because of monopolies. Mr. Speaker, we have to raise value so that there is no monopoly on this KPLC, so that our people can get KPLC lights. The light is essential and is a fundamental right for each one of the citizens of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, with that all remarks, I support the reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mariam. Senator Methu John Muhia.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this particular motion and this particular report of the Committee of Finance, led by a very able chairman, Senator Ibrahim Roba. And Honorable Speaker, I've looked at the work that has been done by this particular committee, and I think they have done justice. They have actually done justice to the 2024, 2025, or 2025, 2026 BPS. Honorable Speaker, because I would want to save sometimes so that colleagues and be able to join our colleague Senator Betty Montet, who lost their husband and the motor services ongoing. I also want to try and save some little time. Honorable Speaker, I just want to go straight to the recommendations, especially the financial recommendations that have been made by the Committee on Finance. Honorable Speaker, I am very happy that most independent offices appeared before the Budget and Finance Committee, and they expressed their frustrations, and they expressed, especially where they feel that the Senate and particularly Parliament should be able to support them so that they can be able to become better in terms of the work that have been apportioned to them, Honorable Speaker. And let me, first of all, Honorable Speaker, start with the Office of the Auditor General. Honorable Speaker, in as much as we draw a mandate from Article 96 of the Constitution of Kenya, and we actually say that we are the body that has been tasked on matters oversight, Honorable Speaker, we largely as a person who has sat in a watchdog committee, we largely depend on recommendations and the work that is done by the Auditor General, Honorable Speaker. If these offices are not well resourced, you know, I had some people threatening the Auditor General that if you continue unearthing the things that you are unearthing on SHARP, on many other projects of the government, we shall reduce your funding in Parliament. I think that is a very retrogressive statement, Honorable Speaker. It is crowing back into the gains that we've made in terms of our financial prudence, Honorable Speaker. This one being, Honorable Speaker, as Senator Eddy and myself or any other senator sits in any committee, we just take recommendations raw as they come from the Office of the Auditor General. We may want to pray oversight, but do we have the tools as a House, Honorable Speaker? Do we have the expertise, Honorable Speaker? We are just struggling with the oversight fund. We are struggling with our officers who shall be able to help us in our oversight offices in the counties, Honorable Speaker. So the people who can be able to actually help us, because they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they are continuously trained on these particular matters, Honorable Speaker, it would be the Office of the Auditor General. I am very encouraged that the committee has proposed that they add the Office of the Auditor General 181 million so that they can be able to hire even more and they can be able to employ as much expertise as it would be required. Because, Honorable Speaker, what is 181 million in a budget of 4 trillion? Just an addition so that they can be able to try and protect. Because there are some people whose hands and fingers itch every time they see public resources. Every time they hear and hear the public resources anywhere, be it in the national government, be it in the county government, their fingers itch. Unless you put a very good and strong watchman, Honorable Speaker, they will continue plundering our resources. So I'm very encouraged that this committee, and I would want to encourage the committee of Senator Roba, continue funding and continue listening to these independent offices, Honorable Speaker. They are our last line of defense, Honorable Speaker. Even when occasionally Parliament does not step up on such matters out of our political inclination, sometimes, Honorable Speaker, the independent offices always step up, Honorable Speaker. On this particular issue of SHA, and you know, had the Auditor General not come out, you would not have expected that truth would come from Parliament. You would not have expected that truth would come from the ministry. You would not have expected that truth would come from the President. So we must continuously fund the Office of the Control of Budget. Quickly, Honorable Speaker, also going to the other one that has been funded, it would be the Control of Budget. Honorable Speaker, I kept, and twice we met the Control of Budget as a committee of this House, Honorable Speaker. I kept asking the Control of Budget. You know, the reason why you hear that your own county, Bomet, for example, I don't know what the pending bill would be or what the pending bills were in 2022 when your governor came in. The reason why you hear that when he came in, the pending bills were 700 million, and right now they're either 700 million or they're even growing, is because they never pay these pending bills. What they do, Honorable Speaker, and it has been aptly put by a colleague here, they will make a requisition that we want to go and pay company X because they supplied goods X, and these are the documents that have been there. The payment process for IFMIS, Honorable Speaker, are 14 or 13 if I'm not correct. So they'll put all your documents to make that requisition from procurement all the way to step number 12, I think, which is called validation. Step number 13 is Internet Banking 1. Step number 14 is Internet Banking 2. Once that requisition comes to the Control of Budget, they'll just look and see. We agreed that in every requisition that I get, there must be an apportion for pending bills. But once that money has now hit the county revenue fund, they do a mischievous thing that they call voiding. They void that transaction. That money that was meant to pay Kamau ends up paying Omondi. That money that was supposed to pay Company Y ends up paying Company Z. And the documents of Company Y will continue being used to draw the money from the consolidated fund, Honorable Speaker, and to confuse the auditor, the Control of Budget, Honorable Speaker. If we don't resource this office so that we can get, Honorable Speaker, a system that the Control of Budget can be able to trail that this money was such an amount, it went straight to the county revenue fund, and that money was used for the specific reason why the money was requested for or the requisition was made for, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, maybe you may know or not that the way our constitution has been made we are not deficient in the laws that we have. One of the requirements that we have, Honorable Speaker, is that the development budget for every county or even the national government must be at least 30% of the entire budget. Honorable Speaker, people will make a requisition and say that this money, we are using it for development. Once that money hits the county revenue fund, it is again voided. That transaction is voided, and it is used for recurrent, Honorable Speaker. There is no way we can be able to stop this, Vice Honorable Speaker, unless the Auditor General has a view, no, the Control Budget has a view of how this money is moving, right from the consolidated fund to the county revenue fund to the specific account of the specific requisition, Honorable Speaker. If it is X who requested, that money must end up there. I don't want to buttress that point, Honorable Speaker, but it is extremely important. Honorable Speaker, I have seen that there is a proposal to add some money to the Commission on Revenue Allocation, and more specifically, I have seen that they want to try and develop a formula and a system, Honorable Speaker, that will help.
Senator Medu, there is a point of order from Senator Ali Roba.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I regret stopping my colleague from continuing, but he will have time to finish his discussions. I raise pursuant to Standing Order number 41 on quorum during proceedings of the Senate 1 and 2. It seems that we may not be having the right quorum to transact the business of the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Clerk, confirm that we don't have quorum. The Sergeant at Arms ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes. Senator Tobiko. Honorable Senators, having failed to attain the quorum at the expiry of 10 minutes, the House stands adjourned pursuant to Standing Order 41-2A until Tuesday, 18th of March, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. When the House resumes, the Honorable Senator Medhu will have a balance of 10 minutes to contribute to the motion that was going on as at the time of this adjournment.